Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Renu Sharma. Today I'm going to talk about again TR to PR. There have been a couple of questions, so I'll try to solve them one by one without wasting time. Today's topic would be a quick update what exactly is happening so far, and then I'm going to talk about NOC, how you actually can determine your eligibility under NOC. And so I'll be talking about more material handlers, cashier, service station, with their NOC and job duties, and how you can attach the documents. Then we are going to talk about how to apply with forms. So I did explain it for international students, but I'll be covering for you know the healthcare and non-healthcare category today, and with full detail like how you can fill it up step by step. Along with that, I'm going to talk about like the review on updated information what we have received on May 26 on TR to PR. At the same time, I'll be talking about like queries related to PCC, medicals, biometrics, and last minute questions, and how you can actually apply for police clearance certificate while you are in Canada. So just grab a cup of tea or a coffee because this is going to be a long one. Now, the first one is quick update over here. If you go onto the website, this is the one, temporary public policies. So if you go in, you'll be able to see this is the update. So 20,000 is the requirement, as all of you knows by now. So workers in Canada, healthcare category, 20,000 is the target. For the number of applications, and so far they have received 1,794 under this category, so a long way to go for sure. Now, in workers in Canada, essential and non-healthcare, people have booked their IELTS, and I'm sure that a lot of people are preparing for the documentation, and that's the reason I'll be covering for the documentation part today in descriptive format. 30,000 is the target, so 12,914 has been received so far. So this is a quick update as on June 9th, 2021. And recent international graduates, as all of you know, that 40,000 was the benchmark, and they have reached the cap within 24 hours. French, again, I'm not going to talk about. So you have to check your eligibility. When you click on here, you'll be able to find out the eligibility. I've covered it in whole my video, how you can check it. And this is the NOC I'm going to talk about step by step. So let's jump on to NOC first. So for say if you have 7452, that's the NOC which is very much in demand. So the job responsibilities like for material handlers. So a lot of people have confusion like how we can actually show our experience. Now see, your main duties cannot be the replica of what's mentioned out here, but it has to be somewhere or the other way. It has to be the same. Like for say if you're showing your profile under this 7452 material handlers, your job responsibility should match with this, like load, unload, and move products and materials by hand or using basic material handling equipment. Now, the closer example over here, it could be like in superstore, right? And then move household appliances and furniture onto and off moving trucks or vans. So perform other material handling activities such as counting, weighing, sorting, and packing. So if you're working in a factory or in a warehouse, definitely your job responsibility would work here. Now when I say superstore, it's not like the day to day what you do, but I'm talking about the night shift people, when they actually have to load the stuff onto the truck and then do the unloading thing. So that's more closer to it. At the same time, your responsibility, like the title should be like bin filler, or it could be furniture mover, or a lumber piler, or a forklift truck operator. So it's more like a heavy duty. Now let's move on to the next NOC, that is 6611. So this is of cashiers. A lot of people got confused, like in case if they are associated with the food and beverages industry, how they can connect to it. So in cashiers, if you see here, the job responsibility would involve like cash registers. You have to feed the information onto registers, and then you will be should be employed in stores, restaurant, theaters, like a recreational and sports establishments. So this is all mentioned here. Now let's scroll it down, and you see the job responsibilities over here. So it has to be somewhere like you establish or identify price of goods, services, or emission, and tabulate total payment required using electronic or cash register. So more like I would say like in Costco. So you must have seen that people actually do a lot of entries onto the computers, and then they receive and process payments by cash, check, credit card, or whatever the payment method you would be using. And they would be providing the relevant information to customers over the counter, and they will be calculating the foreign currency exchange in case if you are deployed somewhere in that segment. So this is more like like a Costco, and then also in Superstore. And then the titles would be like a office cashier, or a cafeteria cashier, or movie theater cashier. These are the responsibility. Now let's move on to the second, like another NOC 6621. This is for service station attendants. Now, in case if you're working in a gas station, definitely your profile would somewhat match with this, and I would recommend you to please go through the responsibilities here. So it has to be like refuel the vehicles and perform the minor service and maintenance, such as washing the windshield, checking fluid levels and air pressure. So you have to go through all the responsibilities. So if you think that this is more towards what you're doing, like a service station attendant, marina, attendant, gas station attendant, so definitely your profile should match as per this NOC. Now let's move quickly on to another one, which is again as per the requirement here, an extra B. So now laborers in food and beverage processing. So this is another profile in case if you are in a segment where your job title is more like a meat packager, or like in Save On Foods, when you have a counter out there in the meat or area, or even this Walmart, or even the superstore. So like food processing laborer, or dairy helper, or candy packer. So in case you have these titles, definitely you can apply into this category, provided you should be doing all these job responsibilities, like measure and dump ingredients into hoppers of mixing and grinding machines, feed and unload food, beverage and associated products, processing machines and all. So just make sure that your responsibility should match with this. Now I would like to cover another NOC that's very very common, and it's I'm sure that a lot of people would be doing this. This is 6623. So this is more like a sales related occupation. Now, if your job title is like a demonstrator, now this probably would confuse some people. Like if I'm working as a sales representative over the phone, like telemarket, or if I'm working as a customer support agent. So this definitely it close to the profile. So if you are into like a contact potential customers by phone, so if you're actually selling a product, or doing any kind of IT work over the phone or through personal contacts, and you're kind of demonstrating the product to them, your profile definitely falls into it. So this would be like a sales service representative, customer support representative, and more like again, these are the responsibilities you can check over here, and your profile should match over here. Now, one confusion I would like to sort out: some people had the confusion with NOC 6711, whether it would fit to 6611, that's a cashier. I'm afraid that this will be counted as a food counter attendant. So if you're working as with the maybe like a Tim Hortons or A&W or a Burger King, or McDonald's. So if you have these responsibilities, you definitely would not be close to 6611, because that's for cashier. So just stay away from that confusion and wait for your turn, in case if government, set up a plan that could actually call this NOC. Now, the supporting documents, it would be, your employment letter over here. If you see it's mentioned out there, it's your job related document would be like your appointment letter, your jobs and duties, and then you have to come up with the pay stubs in case if you can. That'll be great. And in case if you don't have that, like, it's a requirement out there onto the website. If you go, I'll just quickly cover that here. Uh, so if you see here, it's mentioned onto the form that you need to have the supporting documents for your work experience. See, it's like copy of your work permit in Canada, and then employer reference letters for the period of work experience identified in your application, your location of work and all. Then copies of your T4 tax information slips, then your work contracts and pay stubs, all those documents. Now, some people had confusion that what if they don't have the pay stubs? See, you cannot do anything about it. In case if you can manage to do that, do it. Please do your best, because you're not the only one. There would be like 50,000 applicants who are trying their level best to get that. So just get whatever you can. And in case if you're not able to do that, definitely you can update that information whenever the visa officer asks you. And I did provide you with IRCC web form in my earlier video. I would recommend you to please check that, where you can submit the documents. In case if you're getting that, just submit it with your app by adding your passport number, so it could be linked to it, and you should be good to go. Again, I'm repeatedly saying that try to give as many documents as you can, so visa officer should not need to ask you. That's the objective, that when he see or she sees your case, it has to be transparent and crystal clear. So this is NOC. Now let's talk about how you can apply for the form. So in case if you go on 5069 form, you'll be seeing these are the forms you have to apply. So first and foremost, you have to check the eligibility. And once you have that, I have explained it in my earlier video. I'll send the link in the description box how you can actually sign in. I have explained it in step by step. So when you put your email address and your password, but before that you have to create that. So you have to create an account. In case if you don't have it, you create it, and in case if you have it, just put that email address and password, and that's how you can sign in to that. I'm not going to explain those steps again because it's going to take 1 hour in this video. Now, let's move on to the form. So you have to first download these forms in Adobe or on your computer, and make sure that it should be saved where you can actually access to. So these are the main forms, like generic application form. This is the one mandatory. Schedule A, that's again for the principal applicant. Then Schedule 3 for TR to PR. I'm going to explain it in detail how you can fill it up. Then additional family information, and then supplementary information. Now, in case if you have more than 5 family members, you need to fill additional dependence form, that IMM 0008 dependent form. And in case if you're using any representative like a consultant or a lawyer, you have to fill this use of a representative, IMM 5476. Now, once you fill these forms, I'm going to talk about it in steps, but just follow the instructions here. So these are the things they have already explained, that you can download it on Adobe Reader 10 or higher, whatever the transcript option you have. Then IMM 0008 is a barcode form, so make sure you validate and submit all the pages. You have to click the validate button at the top or bottom of the form. You must always click the validate button on 2D barcode forms. Now, in case if you're not able to sign it, there is no other option. Make sure you validate it. So if you provided all the information, a new page with barcodes will appear at the end of the document. So just go through it. These are things you can go on your own. But these are the important things. Do not print the 2D barcode form, and do not use the signature panel button at the top of the application. Now you have to save the form on your computer in a place that you can actually remember, and have to make sure that you upload the form to the IMM 0008 form space in the portal. So you have to enter your name and security questions and everything. So everything is mentioned out there. So just make sure that you have it there. Now let's move quickly on to IMM 0008 form here. Now, so first and foremost, I'm going to talk about TR to PR pathway. So that is IMM 0130 form. So this is the form which have all the information. So schedule 3. So you have to put your personal information in there, like given name, your family name, your ID, date of birth, then which category you will be applying in. Now, since international graduates is all filled, so you have to fill either this or this and these three. So I'm choosing the workers in Canada stream B, because that's going to be very common. The language proficiency, as I mentioned before, also for international graduate, the CLB 5 was a benchmark, but in the workers in category stream A and B, 4 is CLB 4 is the benchmark. So you can click on yes, and then you have to submit the report. IELTS is mandatory, like English proficiency test is mandatory, so you cannot skip that part. Just keep that in mind. And it has to have the validity of at least 2 years. Now, Canadian education credential. Now, if you see that if you're applying to the international graduate stream, so have you completed an eligible program of study after December 31st? So in case if you've already done that, you can simply click on yes, even if you're applying under category B. Now, past the section 5 would be like past Canadian work experience. Now, it has to be as per the NOC. So, do you have at least 12 months of authorized? Now, clearly you mentioned authorized full-time work experience in one or eligible health related occupation listed in Annexure A or in Annexure, you know, on an essential eligible occupation listed in Annexure B within last 36 months. That means you need to have 1 year of experience in last 3 years. That's a mandatory requirement. Then you can click on check. Yes. And then you have to put the details of your job responsibilities whatsoever you have done in the past. Now in case if you've not done as per the requirement, you still have to mention that in the form that IMM 000. Over here you have to mention the date, so the from whichever the time period to, and then hours per week. So some people might have got confused last time, so it has to be like 30 hours per week if you're doing, or 20 hours per week if you are a student, since you're allowed to work off campus for 20 hours. Then your employer name, then NOC, like whichever. So I'm choosing cashier as an NOC, so 6611, and then position and title. Scroll it down, you have to put save after filling it up. Then current Canadian work experience. So you need to be working. That's one thing you have to keep in mind, that you need to be working while applying for this category. Then are you currently physically present or and working in Canada with valid work authorization and temporary resident status. So this is again, you have to fill it yes, and list your current position and identify the dates of your employment. So you again have to mention the dates, the time period you have started working and till what time you are working. Now for for some reason, in case if you're out of job after applying, because it's clearly mentioned onto the website, you need to be working at the time of apply. So just keep that thing in mind, and then you can put the declarant's your signature and the date over here, and you can click on save here. Moving on to the next form, this is IMM 0008 form. That's a generic application form. I have explained it in the past, but there were a lot of confusion, so I'll just make sure that this should be resolved. So program under which you are applying, it's economic. Then is category under which you are applying, TR to PR pathway. How many family members you have, so you can put if you are the only one, and if you are married, two, and if you have one kid, then three. Language preference for, so it's English, and interview English interpreter requested, again in case if you need, you can put that. Where do you intend to live in Canada? You can put the information according to that. Then personal details like your last name and then given name. In case if you don't have a last name, you definitely can use like first name as a family name, like Renu. Have you ever used any other name? So in case if you've done that, just put that, otherwise it's not required. UCI, you don't have that, just leave that. If you have, you can put that. Then is this your gender, then is your height and eye color, your date of birth, place of birth, country, citizenship, then of course would be India, and then current country of residence, so where exactly you're residing right now. So you can put Canada, and then whatever the category you are in, like if you're working as a worker, you can put worker over here, and if you are working like you are in student, you can put student over here. So make sure to choose the right category. Now, date and place of your last entry to Canada. So you can mention the date when exactly you entered Canada, and then place where exactly, like in Calgary or Toronto or Vancouver, whatever. Now, previous countries of residence. So in 12th, you have to mention during the past 5 years where exactly you've lived. So in case if you've not lived anywhere, like if you're a resident of or citizen of India, if you're not lived, just leave that. Simply say no. In case if you have lived anywhere, so you can put yes, and then put the country's name. Like for say if you have stayed in Singapore, or maybe like in Australia for maybe 1 year's time period, so you have to put the country name status there, and then other, and then from or to. Make sure you submit your police clearance certificate for any location wherever you have lived for more than 6 months. And then you have to put the applicant name over here. Make sure do not leave any column with gaps, and there should not be any abbreviation. You have to use the full name and details, and there should not be any initials in these forms, right? Then your current marital status, married, and then you have to provide the name of your current spouse. So you put that. In case if you have married before, you can put the information, otherwise just leave it no. Then contact information, your current mailing address, then PO box and everything. Then residential address would be the same what you have with the current mailing address. Make sure the mailing address what you give should be the active one, so you can have an access to all the mails. Then you have to put your telephone number, and then your in case fax number. Then you have to put your passport details, like do you have a valid passport travel document, then yes, and then put your passport number like E0, whatever the number you have. Then country of issue like India or whatever the country you are coming from, and then issue date and expiry. So usually it's for 10 years, so just put that information in. For this trip, you use a passport issued by Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Taiwan, so this is not applicable here. Now, national identity document, in case if you don't have that, just leave it. And Then scroll it down and then you put your education details over here, like highest level of education, like if you've done masters, so masters, and the number of is experience would be, sorry, number of years of education in total would be number 17. So it's like 5 years, then 7 years of secondary education, and then 3 years of bachelor's and 2 years of masters, depending upon the duration of the course. That also you have to mention. Then current occupation and intended occupation, language, so native language, like in my case it's Hindi, so you put that. And are you able to communicate in English? So bilkul yes, you English. And then have you taken a test from a designated testing agency to assess your proficiency in English? As I mentioned that it's mandatory, so you put yes. And then you have to put the dependents, so you have to put the details of your spouse over here. So you see here, in case if you don't have a dependent, you are an individual who's applying for this application and you're not married, you can remove it. Now let me tell you, in case if you're married and you don't, your spouse is not accompanying you at this point of time, I would highly recommend to put the information for your spouse, because this would be a problem in the future if you try not to show the information now and then try to sponsor them. So put the information for your husband, for your wife, or for your child right at this moment. And then you put your spouse information, your given name, your full name. Same, it's a replica of what I just filled up at the top. So date of birth, citizenship, and all that information. Scroll it down towards the bottom. You will be seeing again, in case if you want to add more dependent, you can click on add and then click on validate over here. Then applicant name and then date of birth over here. And then just click on this information. And once you're done, this is the validate button. Now, in case if you have more than 5 family members, this is the additional dependents form. So you can always fill the given name, family name, again, the same what we have just done. So it's again only in case if you have more than 5 family members. Now this is schedule A. This is for the principal applicant. So you have to pull the given name, your full name, and again the personal details what we have mentioned. But here you have to mention your father, your mother, all those details. So in case if you try to like plan to sponsor them in the future, the information has to be accurate. Okay. Now, have you or principal applicant any of your family members listed in your application for permanent residence in Canada ever? So this is like, being convicted of any kind of a crime or offense. So you just have to put that information, go through it. Usually it will be no. So in case if you have yes, so just make sure that you use the explanation letter. Now, in the second seven here, given the number of years of education, so you have to, like in India, we usually have 5 years of elementary, so five as a number here, and secondary and higher secondary would be seven, and university is usually like 3 years of bachelor and 2 years of masters, depending upon the duration of the course. And then in case if you have done any kind of a trade, like a 3 years program, a trade program, or 2 years, you can put that information. Then you have to provide each and every details, like from the duration, whatever the matriculation you have done, the name of the institution from where you have done, the city and country, like say Chandigarh, and then in and India, then type of certificates like a matriculation, then field of study, you have to put the subject's name, like English, maths, science, or this thing. And in case if in higher secondary, you have to put the information like name of the institution, city and country, again then type of certificate, it's like a higher secondary, so you can put that. And then a field of study, again the subjects you can put here. Now the personal history, again provide the details of your personal history since the age of 18 or the past 10 years, whichever is most recent. So you have to put that information in. Now just make sure that there should not be any gap. I have mentioned in my prior video also, and during the time when I was filing the cases also, you cannot leave with any gap. So that's mandatory. Even if you have stayed for like couple of months somewhere, put that information. That's very important. It should be crystal clear for the visa officer. Then membership of association with organizations. In case if you have done any volunteer work, you definitely can do that. Otherwise, not required. You can simply click on, just write not applicable. And then government positions, if you have holding any positions in government, then definitely put that. And military also, you have to provide that, and then country name. And then scroll it down and put the address details. Again, you have to give whole the details. I know it's cumbersome, but you have to list out all the addresses wherever you have stayed so far in last 10 years. That's more recent. And then you have to click on save, and then declaration of applicant, again signature, and then you're done. Now, moving on to the next form, this is 5406. Now, this is for additional family members. So you have to put your name first, like Renu, and then country of But email address, no, this is like in case if you were married and physically present, like sometimes you are married and on paper you were not there, so this is only for that. So married, physically present, and you also have to provide the marriage certificate with this application. And then children's detail, your spouse detail over here, children's detail, your brothers and sisters, again this is mandatory, so you have to make sure that you put the name of your brother and sister so you can sponsor them in the future, and your information is here in the form. And then put the signature over here, and then you are good to go. Now let's move on to our next question here. So I'll be reviewing the application, whatever the updates we have received. Uh, so this is the one, yeah. So a lot of people again had the confusion. I have covered it, but I just wanted one video to have all the queries to be sorted out. So your work experience must have been authorized. That's a mandatory requirement under this category. Principal applicants should provide a copy of work permit, or study permit that demonstrates that they held authorization for the time worked. If it's not provided, officer shall verify authorization to work in the global case management system. So please make sure that whatever the documentation you can provide, if you even if you are studying at the moment, and you are allowed to work off campus for 20 hours as per NOC, I would recommend please provide your supporting documents. That's going to help you as an applicant, because there would be a lot of people trying their level best to get that. Now, the eligibility is actually 1 year of work experience must have been acquired or in one or more occupation listed in Annexure A only. Now, experience cannot be combined. This is for like in case if you have done, you are working in Annexure A NOC, then definitely it has to be in that only. However, if you are applying under B cat stream, so it had to be combination of A and B. So this is for that only. Now, again, this is more in details about it, and they have mentioned each and everything on to this, their page itself. Now, this is again more descriptive. I would highly recommend please go through it. The work experience must be equivalent to or at least 1 year of full-time work experience and must have been acquired in the last 3 years preceding the date when the application for permanent resident is received. So it's clearly mentioned that you should be working. The application for the permanent residence is received, so that's mandatory. You need to be working during the time. And also the work one experience here, it's again mentioned the 1 year of experience can be acquired through multiple periods of employment. So it's not like that you are just working as a cashier. So if you're working as a first say material handlers for say 6 months time period, and then you started working as a cashier for 3 months time period, and again with different company you started working as a cashier, so your job profile is actually eligible as per NOC, so you should be good to go. Work experience must be acquired over a period of at least 1 year. That's mandatory requirement. And work in excess of 30 hours per week over a shorter period of time cannot be compensated or cannot be considered as valid, because you cannot squeeze in like, for 1 week you're working for 20 hours, on second week you're trying to get overtime 40 hours. So that is not considered to be, good over here. Now, moving on to how, there were a couple of queries about the documentation part for say medicals. Now a lot of people had confusion like whether they need to appear for medicals or not. So an immigration medical exam, again IME from a panel, is required as a part of your application. You cannot skip that. However, in case if you have done that, if you have never completed an ME, definitely you have to appear for that. But in case if you have appeared for medicals in the past, you don't need to. So it's mentioned here, if you have already completed IME as a part of your previous application, for example for student visa or for work visa, you may not need to complete another one when you apply for permanent residence. It's clearly mentioned out there, so don't need to worry. However, you have to provide the supporting documents. So whatever the medicals you have done, you can get the reports like IMM 1017 form, uh, upfront medical report form, and you can attach it with your documentation part. Now, one thing before I forget, like a lot of people had confusion while filling up the form. Do they need to, provide the additional information? For say, if you are filling up the IMM 0008 form over here, like you log in and you provide all these documents, but for some reason during this you need extra sheet, like you need to provide additional or a separate sheet, you definitely can do that. So in educational column, see, I'll just explain you here. So in this, when you're filling up the form, sometimes when you put your information in your educational information. It's kind of difficult for a person to put all the information in these columns, so they need an extra sheet. So during the time, if you stuck somewhere like that, you definitely can attach a separate sheet over here. I'm sorry, it's just taking a little time here. Yeah, that's the one. So in this case, for education, so if you have done, if these columns are not sufficient enough, you can always attach a separate sheet of paper with your form and just write down all the information. That will not be considered invalid. And then you have to submit it with the processing fees. So this it's again mentioned onto the website how you can apply it with your processing fee. So the processing fee would be actually $550, like a for the principal applicant for processing fee, and then I'll just cover that. There's so many links out here. hmm So when you go towards the bottom over here, yeah. So your permanent residence fee, principal applicant, would be $1,050 in total. That's for processing fee is $550, and right of permanent residence fee is $500. Now, for some reason, if your application is rejected, this processing fee will not be refunded. However, this money will be refunded to you, $500, because this processing fee is non-refundable. Now, in case if you're applying for your spouse, you'll be submitting the fees for them also, for her or for him also. So it would be 1,050, and per child dependent would be 150. Now, in case if you're not done the biometrics in the past, as I mentioned, biometrics is mandatory. But in case if you're not done in the past, if you've done it, then you don't need it. But if you have not done it, $85 would be per person. And in case if you're doing for a family, like for two people, then it would be $170. And it's the instructions are mentioned out there how you can process the fees out here. So you can just click on this instruction. Now there were also queries related to PCC, now how you can actually apply for police clearance certificate. My recommendation would be to get it through BLS international website. So these are the jurisdiction actually. So when you go online, I have to cover the full video how you can apply it. So we basically have three jurisdiction: Toronto, Vancouver, and Ottawa. So you can click on the area whichever so near to you, and you can when you click on that, you will be able to get the checklist of the documentation. See, police clearance certificate. So I clicked on this checklist, and that's how I landed onto this page. So these are the instructions given out there. So you have to fill up all the forms, all these information in, and then how you can apply for police clearance certificate also. Now, medicals, I've already covered that. And what else is left here? Yeah, so you have to make sure that you submit the documents after going through each and every information. That's mandatory. You have to make sure that you fulfill the checklist, in case if these are the forms, the first and foremost, these application forms, then your supporting documents for your employment, then your status, like entry in Canada documents, and then you have to provide police clearance certificate. And then in case if you've not done medicals, you have to provide for the medicals also. IELTS is mandatory requirement, like English test. And in case if you have done French also, you can provide that supporting document too. And make sure that your job responsibility, whatever you are applying under, should match with the NOC. And after that, you can submit the fees, and you should be good to go under this program. And yeah, so far we haven't received any AOR. So I hope in case if we receive any information, I'll update onto that. I hope this video has provided you with more of information. So in case if you have any question, you can always reach out to me. And please subscribe to my channel for more updates. Till then, take care and stay safe. Bye.